I'd like to emphasize again that Ukraine is not just a neighboring country for us. It is an inalienable part of our own history, culture, and spiritual space. Those are our comrades, those dearest to us. They're not just our colleagues, friends, and people who once served together, but they're also our relatives, people bound by blood, by family ties since time immemorial, since the beginning of time. The people living in the southwest of what has historically been Russian land have called themselves Russians and Orthodox Christians. This was the case before the 17th century when a portion of this territory rejoined the Russian state and after. And that's why Putin will wipe them out. Ukrainians aren't Ukrainians, they're Russians. That's why Putin is going to genocide the shit out of Ukraine. Wipe out Ukraine once and for all. Why? Because way back in the day, they used to be family. They used to be the same tribe, the same village, the same nation. And what do you do to, neighbors and family back in the day that, well, you attack them until they love you. You attack them and you invade them. And he's also talking about before the 1600s, before the 17th, that's the 1600s. Well, before the 1600s, it was all Native Americans in America. Before the 1600s, there was no American Revolution. There was no Haitian Revolution. There was no French Revolution. Before the 1600s, no forks. Forks were invented in 1637. So before the 1600s, before forks were invented, things were different. No shit, Sherlock. Putin thinks things were different before forks were invented. Holy fuck. Putin's history, the reason why he even spoke about this bullshit history was in order to understand what's happening today, he needed to explain the motives behind Russia's actions and what they aim to achieve by explaining their history. So he mentioned that, Khrushchev gave Crimea to the Ukraine in 1954, so he understands that. But Putin is just wrong on so many goddamn things. Putin is a fucking dumb shit, dumbass, dumb fuck, fucking fat ass, low life, degenerate, fat fucking piece of motherfucking, not just a war criminal, he's a criminal. He's a goddamn Jeffrey Dahmer times what? 50,000? How many dead bodies we're going to count, what, goddamn 100 years later? Oh, he killed 100,000 people. How come we didn't know any fucking thing about it? In the age of information, in the information age, we didn't know that he was doing all that shit. 513 BC, you know who invaded the Ukraine in 513 BC? King Darius. Hey, Putin, you pile of shit, King Darius invaded the Ukraine when it was called Scythia. But Scythia was water. Scythia couldn't be gotten a hold of. The Scythians were the Ukrainians, the original Ukrainians. They were nomadic Iranians. And King Darius I was Persian. So these Iranian nomads are being chased by an Iranian king. It's Iranian on Iranian crime. And even though Whoopi Goldberg's not allowed to say it, Putin killing all the people in Ukraine is white on white crime. Major white on white crime. For the people that don't realize that the Ukraine has a right to defend themselves and that other people have a right to defend the Ukraine, well, you guys are just some dumb motherfucking pieces of shit. Even Ronald Reagan understood that shit. Of course you got a right to self-defense, and of course other people have a right to help you defend yourself. The Ukraine was first written about in 1187 AD. Moscow was written about in 1143. So basically, they were just writing about Moscow, then they wrote about the Ukraine. Right at the same fucking time. In the 1100s. You want to go goddamn back to the 1600s? Shit, let's go back to 1200. The Ukraine was around in 1187 AD. The Ukraine, there was people in the Ukraine called the Scythians. And King Darius I couldn't catch the Scythians. And you know why? Because the Scythians didn't have any property. They didn't have any land. They had no buildings. They were a nomadic tribe. So when the Persian King Darius was chasing them, the Scythians just ran away. And, they said, well, you scared or something? And it's like, no, we're not scared. If you want beef with us, you have to find our fathers' graves and desecrate them. If you find our fathers' graves and desecrate them, then we'll have beef. But right now, we don't have any wealth. We don't have any money. We don't have any food. We don't have any buildings. We don't have any land. What the fuck could you possibly want from us? And so talk about avoiding a war. Talk about avoiding a fucking war. Just a band of people stick together. And that sounds like the Cossacks. That sounds so fucking Ukrainian. Those Scythian, those nomadic Iranians that sounds so Ukrainian. Sounds like the Cossacks. The Cossacks are the Ukrainians. The Cossacks, they knew how to ride a horse. The horse people, the horse riding people. So the Ukraine's been around since 1187. That's when it got written by some historian, 1187. Right after Moscow was written, about 40 years after, and it was a historian. So in 1240 AD, you had Batu the Mongol, who's going to sack Ukraine. Over and over again, you're going to have all these nations that want the Ukraine. The Ukraine has all those minerals, all those people, all that land. Motherfucking shit, just the land by itself, but the human capital, the capital of land and water and mountains and whatever minerals and oil and shit can be found underneath that land. So many people have wanted Ukraine. Good, pure, beautiful Ukraine. Everybody's wanted to put their dirty mitts on wonderful, beautiful, gorgeous Ukraine. And why? Why do they want the Ukraine? Well, King Darius, he just wanted to, act like a fucking tough guy. And then when it came to the Mongols, well, they wanted, some land and property. They were expanding their sphere of influence, the balance of power, their sphere of influence, their regional sphere of influence. You had the Lithuanians, Poland, they wanted Ukraine. Batu the Mongol in 1240. Muscovites, they wanted the Ukraine. Tartars wanted the Ukraine. The Swedish Vikings wanted the Ukraine. It's all about Oleg and those motherfuckers, right? Oleg and Igor and Olga and Oleg. Not dickhead, schmegma dickhead, but Oleg. Not O-arm, but O-head or fingernail, but Oleg. Oleg is considered the father of the Russian people. Oleg is a Swedish Viking. The Swedish Vikings want to take Ukraine too. The Swedish Vikings set up shop at Novgorod, which was up in the north, closer to Moscow. These Muscovites, they wanted Ukraine. They took Kiev and then they said, we're all together. Yeah, they're trading with the Byzantines and shit. Kiev has always been right there in the Dnieper River. Kiev has been a goddamn... since 400 or 500 AD is when Kiev has been established, so Kiev has been there for a long fucking time. So the Swedish Vikings wanted Kiev. Muscovites wanted Kiev. The Tartars wanted Kiev. The Persians and the Greeks wanted the Kiev and the Ukrainians. The Avars and the Khazars. The Khazars too, the Khazars and the Turks and the Ottomans. The Khazars, this is a Turkish tribe in the 700s and 800s. They're running Russia or Ukraine at the time along the Volga River. Who controlled the Volga River? The Khazars. So how come are they going to take over the Turkish nation next? Since, the Khazars said that they were running Russia. So who actually ran Russia? And who were they running? I think it was actually the Eastern Slavs. If you want to get down to the nitty gritty, who was the basic bare minimum, the native Ukrainians, of Ukraine? Who were the Native Americans to the Ukraine? The native Ukrainians were the Eastern Slavs. The Eastern Slavs. That's why, basically the goddamn history of Ukraine is a whole bunch of oppressor fucking conquering motherfuckers keep on saying, I'm the king, I control all you bastards, do as I fucking tell you. Instead of democracy or a constitution or elections, these damn conquerors take everything over and, things kind of get better for some people, but not really for a lot of others. The Eastern Slavs. Why? Because they were the slaves, right? So these motherfucking Swedish Vikings, Mongolians, Lithuanians, Polish, Muscovites, these Persian kings, They all wanted the Ukraine. They wanted the Eastern Slavs. They wanted power over the Eastern. They wanted power over the Radomichis and the Kravitsis and the Drevlians, the people of the forest. Also the Polyanas, aka the Polans, aka the Polanis, the people of the plains. So in the Ukraine, you had the people of the forest, the Drevlians, and the people of the plains. King Kiev founded Kiev in 500s. He was Poland. King Kiev, the man who founded Kiev, was Poland. And I believe Poland, the country of Poland, was founded by some Polani people. Novgorodians, the original Novgorodians were Slovenians, the Slovenes. The Slovenes were the original Eastern Slavs in Novgorod. So when you say that Russia isn't even for Russia. Russia is for the Slovenes. Russia is for the Eastern Slavs, the Radomichis, the Kravitches, and the Polans, the Polyanas, the Polanis, the Drevlians, the people of the forest. You know what they did to Igor? They tied one of Igor's foot to a birch tree. They tied another foot to another birch tree. And then they cut the rope. And they bent the birch tree. So when they cut the rope, the birch tree sprung back up and ripped Igor in half. That's what they thought about the Swedish Vikings. The Swedish Vikings. Go ahead. You want to say it's Oleg? Oleg is your, George Washington of the Russian nation? Okay. Go ahead and keep Oleg. Oleg was a Swedish Viking. Does he know any of this? Does fucking Adolf Putin know any of this shit? Vlad the Mad? Here's some more Putin. So I will start with the fact that modern Ukraine was entirely created by Russia, or to be more precise, by Bolshevik Communist Russia. This process started practically right after the 1917 revolution. Lenin and his associates did it in a way that was extremely harsh on Russia by severing what was historically Russian land. Nobody asked the millions of people living there what they thought. Then, both before and after the Great Patriotic War, Stalin incorporated in the USSR and transferred to Ukraine some lands that previously belonged to Poland, Romania, and Hungary. In the process, he gave Poland part of what was traditionally German land as compensation. And in 1954, Khrushchev took Crimea away from Russia for some reason and also gave it to the Ukraine. And in fact, this is how the territory of modern Ukraine was formed. This motherfucker. Just look back. History of fucking Russia is terrible. It is so dark and dreary and just so backstabbing, and it's just a cesspool. It's remarkable that Russia ever got modernized, if it's even modernized. The Soviets, I think, for the most part, did the Russians a favor, but that's what a lot of conquering fucking assholes keep coming in saying they know what's best for everybody else. It would be nice to see if Russia got some democracy. What would Russia do if they could vote and choose their own leader, their own president? If they actually got a constitution and a democracy and a president instead of a Führer, it'd be incredible. I bet Russia would be absolutely fucking changed for the better. Look back at Ivan the Terrible. You have Ivan the First, Ivan the Second, Ivan the Third. Ivan the Terrible is Ivan the Fourth, and he's going to sack Novgorod. Ivan the Third also sacked Novgorod. So you have Prince Oleg, who is the historical father for the Kievan Rus, right? For the Russian people, Prince Oleg. And then Rurik, the original guy is the founder of the Rurik dynasty. But Ivan the Terrible, he's the fourth. The third and the fourth are going to sack Novgorod, which would be the homeland of the Russian people. Novgorod is more of the homeland of the Russian people than Kiev is. Novgorod would be the original homeland, and then Moscow eventually, Novgorod is right there by Moscow. So Novgorod, Moscow, not Kiev. Kiev is in the south. Kiev is way fucking far away. So Ivan the Terrible is going to kill his own fucking people. He's going to kill everybody in Novgorod and then take like the ruling class and then ship them into the interior of Russia. That's fucking crazy as shit. So Russia has been shitty, a fucking mean, cold, dark, dreary, a wasteland, an absolute cesspool for a long ass time. King Oleg the Great the First, he's more like, oh, dickhead, schmigma cheese, but You have Rurik and Olga and Igor. Igor got ripped in half by the native Ukrainians, the Drevlians, the people of the forest. They didn't take kindly to these Swedish fucking Vikings. These are the original Russians. These are the original Russians, according to Putin's own understanding of his own history. The Drevlians ripped Igor in half. So yeah, get the fuck out of here, you Swedish Sweden, Swedish Viking motherfucker. They're going to, attack the same time that the Vikings were attacking England around the 800s. Olga was Christianized before Volodymyr. Olga was Christianized before Volodymyr. Olga killed the shit out of the Drevlian people, the people of the forest, for what they did to Igor. But the Drevlians didn't want to be taxed 2 fucking times in 1 month. They hated taxes. Can you understand that? America, wasn't the whole American Revolution about not wanting to pay some goddamn taxes? And then let's keep on going with some goddamn Russian history. You got Vladimir and Yaroslav and Slaviet. Slav. They keep on adding Slav to the end of their names. Why? Because when Swedish Vikings invade your country, they want to claim to be indigenous so they can solidify their hold on power. Swedish Vikings, outsiders, come in and say, oh, what? Oleg Slav? No, my name's not Oleg. It's Oleg Slav. Yaroslav is going to be, Slaviatoslav. They claim to be the Slavic people again. The Eastern Slavic people, right? Eastern Slavs are there at Novgorod. The Eastern Slavs are there at Kiev. And I bet you the Eastern Slavs are there in Moscow too. And the Scythians, the Iranian nomads, were there fucking 513 BC. So if that means Iran has a claim, right? If we're going to say we were there a long time ago, so Sweden's got a claim, Mongolia's got a claim, and Iran's got a claim. The Swedish Vikings, aka the Varangians, this is when the beginning of Russian history. The Varangians conquered Novgorod, then the Varangians conquered Kiev, and then that started the Kievan Rus. The Varangians, when the Swedish Vikings were attacking Kiev and Novgorod, they're going to sack Novgorod in 862, and you're going to have resistance. Who is that hero? Ahab or some shit, who fought against, goddamn Rurik in Novgorod in 862, and then they're going to fight against, he just killed straight up Dur Askold, which I think might have been some other Swedish Vikings, or it could have been some other people. But these Varangians are the damn Swedish Vikings who the Russians, Putin, say is his George Washington, his father of the Russian people, is Oleg and Rurik and Olga and Igor and Oleg and Igor and Olga and Oleg and Rurik and Yaroslav and Vladimir and Slaviatoslav. And so the Kievan Rus were Christian and they were Byzantine. Their culture was overly, Christy-ass Christian like a motherfucker, and Byzantine. The Greeks pretended to be Roman, right? Oleg, Olga, Igor. They were a bunch of Greeks, pretenders. They, had Greek culture, Byzantine Orthodox, the Varangians, just a bunch of Greek dickheads pretending that they were Romans. The Western Roman Empire is dead and gone. Constantinople, that's not Rome. That ain't even real Rome. Ancient forebears of the Russians were the Swedish Vikings. Sweden has the same claim to all of Russia, and apparently to Georgia and Armenia, Crimea, Donetsk, Ukraine, Luhansk, Chechnya, the Caucasus Mountains, right? The Swedish Vikings had conquered all that. The Kievan Rus, and you know who the Swedish Vikings are? That's me. That's my people. That's right, Putin. My motherfucking people's conquered goddamn Novgorod. My fucking people conquered goddamn Kiev. My motherfucking people conquered fucking Russia and Ukraine. So you want to sit there and say what? The Swedish Vikings took over the Ukraine, so therefore you got claim to the Ukraine? Fuck you. I got more of a claim to the Ukraine than you son of a bitch, motherfucker. The Cossack Ukrainians. The Ukrainians are the Cossacks. They're not the Novgorodians, they're not the Muscovites, the Cossacks, or the wild horse people. They're very similar to the Scythian Ukrainians, are they not? The Scythian Ukrainians are wild horse people. Why do you want to fight us? What's up? You keep coming towards us, we walk out of your way, you're trying to get by or something? What's happening? So fuck Putin. Get the fuck out of Ukraine, you pile of shit. Fucking shit. God damn. And motherfuckers that don't know right from wrong, what the fuck is the matter with you motherfuckers? Even Ronald Reagan could see that this shit is wrong. Even fucking Reagan. I'm on the side of Finman. I'm on the side of Pussy Riot. I'm on the side of, Zelensky and the Ukrainian people. I'm on the side of, who is this new one that come out and was like, I'm on the side of Mila Kunis. I'm on the side of Ashton Kutcher. I'm on the side of right. I'm on the side of right. But there's somebody else that was like, awesome. I'm glad they're on my side too. Yeah, I don't know. Chris Rock? Somebody else. Larry David?